Once there was a lovely town that fell on hard times. The library burned down, the people grew suspicious of one another, even the mayor, a famous dragon slayer, couldn't or wouldn't fix its difficulties. Once there was an ogress who dwelled in the forest nearby. She loved to bake, she made friends with crows, she was twice as tall as any grown up, and when the mayor needed someone to blame for the town's problems, she was strange and quiet and right there. Once there were 15 children who lived in the town's orphan house. Anthea was useful, Bartleby loved books, Cass noticed everything, and all of them looked at the town and the mayor and the ogress and wondered what they could do to help. Once there was a dragon. What happened next? Listen. Here is a preview of The Ogress and the Orphans by Kelly Barnhill. It is a nominee for 2024 to 2025 for the California Young Reader Medal in its intermediate category. Listen, this is a story about an ogress. She is not who you might think she is, but really, is anyone? The ogress lived in a crooked house at the far edge of town. She enjoyed baking and gardening and counting the stars. Like all ogres, the ogress was quite tall. Even sizable adults would have to crane their necks and squint a bit to say hello. She had feet the size of tortoises, hands the size of herons' wings, and a broad brow that cracked and creased when she concentrated. Her skin was like granite, and her eyes looked like brand new pennies. Her hair sprouted and waved from her head like prairie grass, stiff and yellow and green, sometimes spangled with daisies or dandelions or creeping ivy. Like all ogres, she spoke little and thought much. She was careful and considerate. Her heavy feet trod lightly on the ground. This is also a story about a family of orphans. There were 15 orphans living in the orphan house at the time our story begins, several years after the ogress first arrived in town. There were too many children for one house, but they made do. Their names were Anthea, Bartleby, Cassandra, who preferred Cass, Deidre, Elijah, Fortunate, Gratitude, Hiram, Iggy, Justina, Kai, Lily, Maud, and the babies, Nanette and Orpheus. They were good children, these orphans, studious and hardworking and kind, and they loved one another dearly, ever so much more than they loved themselves. The ogress, too, was hardworking and kind and generous. She also loved others more than she loved herself. This can be a problem, of course, sometimes, but it can also be a solution. Let me show you how. This is also a story about a dragon. I do not like to talk about him much. I don't even like to think about him. I should clarify. It is not my intention to speak ill of dragons, generally. It is a terrible practice to prejudge anyone, be they ogres or orphans or dragons or nosy neighbors or assistant principals or people with unusual manners. It is important always to treat everyone with compassion and respect. This is well known. As for dragons, in particular, they are as diverse in their dispositions as any other creature. I myself have encountered dragons of every personality type: shy, gregarious, lazy, fastidious, self-centered, big-hearted, enthusiastic, and brave. But this dragon, I'm sorry to say, was none of those things. This dragon was greedy, perfidious, and indifferent. He felt no remorse, and he had not been redeemed. He delighted in discord and sowed acrimony wherever he went. These are all large words, and I apologize for them, but my feelings about this dragon are large. Listeners, I would like to just interject here. Nobody should ever feel like they have to apologize for using big words. Listen, I would like nothing more than to tell you that every person, human, dragon, or any other kind of creature, is fundamentally good. But I can't tell you that because it is not in my nature to lie. Everyone starts fundamentally good, in my experience, and nearly everyone stays mostly good for the most part. But some, well, they choose to do bad things. No one knows why. And then a small number of those choose to stay bad. I wish it weren't true, but it's best you know this now at the beginning of this book. Every story has a villain, after all, and every villain has a story. And this has been a preview of The Ogress and the Orphans.